All right, well, let's get started. So good morning and welcome to Scalefast Connect. We're a community of retail and e-commerce professionals networking and sharing ideas. If you'd like to be invited to future community events, please leave your email in the comments section. We'll get back to you with information on our next event. Our next gathering is on September 20th in Paris, France, as a part of the Paris Retail Week. So that's pretty exciting. My name is Dan Wallace-Brewster. I'm SVP of Marketing at Scalefast, and I'm going to introduce our topic and panel. Cameras and mics are off for all but our panelists today, but we welcome you to submit questions via the chat, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the program. The webinar is also being recorded and can be streamed later. Last but not least, I want to thank our panelists for their time and thoughts on today's topic, how brands are using more customized experiences to improve revenue and profitability in DTC. So a brief look at our agenda. We'll go over the topic really quickly. I'll introduce our speakers and then we'll begin the discussion. If you haven't heard, the third-party cookie is going away. The days of relying on a customer's social feed to determine the featured product on your storefront, they're over. Although I have no idea how Facebook knew I was adding my daughter to our insurance this week, digitally native brands like Warby Parker and the lot have showed that not only could a site be personalized, but the entire experience all the way through fulfillment could be customized to the individual customer's intent by simply giving them the tools to tell the brand what they wanted when they wanted it. And while the slow-moving iceberg of third-party cookie deprecation has threatened to destroy the world as we know it, digitally native and observant legacy brands moved on. They can be more profitable and informed by establishing a direct relationship with their customer and then listening, like as almost if in a conversation, and the consumer liked it. While the relationship between the brand and the consumer improved, the volume of customers coming in by foot or click dropped or disappeared completely during COVID. When the world reopened, marketing costs had ballooned, making it more important than ever to be customer obsessed with particular attention on customer lifetime value. There's new willingness for brands to invest in tech that provides better service and increased loyalty. CFOs and CTOs everywhere were no longer saying no because a new feature or function that improved user experience now had tangible outcomes like higher conversion and repeat business. They could be measured. Truly personalizing UX for an individual customer and their intent was no longer too hard or too expensive to approve. It was a necessity to compete. The doors were open to solutions that optimized e-commerce and fulfillment for much smaller customer segments, even one-to-one. It's the brands that are true to the UX and loyalty lessons they honed during the pandemic that will emerge as tomorrow's retail standard bearers, even from a potential recession. While brands got better, customers got more demanding and complex. What a customer experiences at one store is now the expectation at the next one. Sometimes just the perception of a service being free can raise the bar for everyone else. Free shipping is a prime example. And yes, the pun is intended. Delivery channels multiplied. Tastes became more customized. The Starbucks effect hit retail, and AI-driven guesses at product imagery were no longer going to cut it to make a customer feel appreciated and heard. Customers have always told us what they wanted. They do it as soon as they walk in the door. Examples are when a customer walks into a car dealership or a pet versus a pet store. They're telling you exactly what they want. When they walk onto a new car lot versus a used car lot, they're telling you what they value. When they walk onto a Lexus lot versus a Toyota lot, for example, they're likely telling you what they can afford. This insight isn't new spy tech, but e-commerce platforms have been slow to adapt to what has always been a critical function of retail, being an active observer and conversationalist of most and a consumer of the most obvious consumer signals. The same indicators associates use at a physical retail have applications online. And now it's our job to take those signals and use them to adapt our processes and solutions to serve the customer and emerge from the challenges ahead victorious. So with that, I want to introduce our panel who are going to be discussing today's topic. Julie Anthony is our own Vice President of Client Success and has been with Scalefast for almost 2 years. She has more than a decade of agency and brand experience building strategies to drive growth for names such as Rag & Bone, Fry Boots, and most recently Scalefast clients Flair Systems and Wizards of the Coast. Karaline Goldmark has been involved in retail for 17 years with experience in store, online, and in merchandising procurement for brands such as Macy's and most recently Tile. For the last 8 years, she's been focused on driving e-commerce conversion through on-site optimization and helping to identify key learnings from customers. Very topical for today. And then Rich Casulito is a sales executive with 20 years of supply chain sales leadership, developing and implementing new business initiatives, managing key accounts, and exceeding revenue performance targets for organizations ranging from 350 million to over $1 billion in annual revenue. So with that, I will welcome everyone to the discussion and hand it off to Julie to take us the rest of the way.
Thank you, Dan. And thanks for that dive into the need to personalize, the need to connect with our customers. We're going to be talking about two main topics today, but we'll kick off with customization. Customization is such a wide topic, right? And it means something different, I think, depending on the maturity of the brand, depending on the industry you're coming from. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit. I know at Scalefast we're, as we all are, right, very data-driven and use that data to decide or build strategies on when to become local from a geo standpoint, when to change certain UI, UX behaviors based on the data. But one of the questions for you, Karaline, I had is, what do you think is the key factor that triggers the need to customize, knowing that it's necessary, right? And then from your perspective, because you've seen the $20 million business and the $100 million business plus, right? What are key areas maybe to focus depending on where you're at in terms of both the revenue you bring in and the maturity of your brand?
Yeah, so I think to answer your first question, depending on the brand, it's going to vary. So depending on the type of product you're selling or the service you're offering, there's going to be different moments within your company's life cycle that you have to determine the fact, essentially, what are your customers demanding at what point? So sometimes it happens when you're a $20 million business or maybe a $5 million business, but the ultimate item here is that if you're listening to your customers, you'll know when you need to make that decision. And when I say listening to your customers, I don't just mean looking at the data. I mean actually talking to your customer service team and really being inherently tied in with the behavior of both on-site and in-store of these certain customers. And then, it's interesting because when I was at Macy's, you would think of a company of that size, you would have kind of a synergistic approach to e-commerce, but no. One of the number one issues when I was there, which was a handful of years ago now, was siloed within businesses. So what happens is each of the company has different families of business that run operations, just like a normal business would, but it's all tiny little entities within it. So now try to think about all of those priorities competing for website space, whether that's homepage space, getting in front of that same customer. They're all targeting the same customer, but different approaches, different brands, different promo strategies, different give back plans. And it becomes a point where Macy's company said, we need to stop and we need to personalize and we need to stop siloing who we're targeting from a customer standpoint. And so that, of course, is a huge business. And they started that years ago. And they took various approaches to get there. So I think it, again, depends on your business and the type of merchandise or service you're offering. So they were looking at personalization from a customer segment standpoint first. And then what they were doing is they were dialing it down based on what the customers were demanding their experience look like. For example, younger consumers were looking for different outfitting ideas and how to style different pieces that they were wearing. But then what does that 360 approach look like from emailing them post-purchase? Are you sending them complimentary items that maybe that outfit was already suggesting? So they're seeing the outfit again. So those are the types of, I would say, personalized experiences that Macy's was exploring. And then it stopped having competing priorities in between those families of businesses. Now, kind of dialing it back a little, when we talk about personalization at a smaller company, so when I was at Tile, we were taking personalization two different ways. Again, here's this customer segmented approach. We had to start there. You have to define who your customer is in order to target them appropriately and give them the experience they're demanding. Once you do that, you can start to build a strategy and a framework for how you want to approach targeting them. And then from there, we started to create various testing models that we could say, well, maybe if we created exclusive product, they will bite. Or maybe we need to lean into recycling. And that's kind of the direction that our customer is telling us. Again, depending on the segmentation of your customer profile, that is going to determine where you go as a company.
Interesting. One question that's kind of coming up as you're talking, how with your Tile experience, how were you testing into exclusivity or recycling? Were you pushing out questionnaires, surveys? Were you pushing out the new product? What were some of the approaches you found to be successful?
Yeah, there were a handful of different ones. When we had first started this program called Limited Editions back in 2020, it was kind of throwing designs against the wall to see if our customers would like these only on DTC opportunities, and then growing from there. And then what we started to learn with our customers over time was what they were expecting from a design standpoint. Now, where we were trying to go is more of a, when I say personalized, I mean actually personalized. For example, monogramming, essentially letting the customer micro design whatever it is they were trying to purchase at that moment in time. So that was kind of something we were looking forward to doing in the next few years. But all of that was hinging on operational strategies. And so that was one piece of it. And then when I say we're testing into things, we worked with a team that would, for example, do on-site UX testing. Anytime we were kicking off segmenting group, we would do focus groups and try to lean into who is our customer, who are we trying to target, who do we have now, because we don't want to upset them. And those are the types of approach we would take with our broader marketing team.
Interesting. Thank you. Rich, on the operational topic, what are some of the main trends you're seeing from a fulfillment and logistics standpoint as it relates to customization?
Sure. Well, we've transitioned from a situation where everyone was in love with volume and just being able to push out mass quantities of whatever the widget is, to today where, being nimble, responsive, as Karaline mentioned, listening to the clients. So it's one thing with the data, it's another thing to actually sit down with our customers and hear what they're saying, listen to where they're going and try and get there with them or slightly ahead of them. So we have a model that's flexible, responsive, can just do what they need us to do, not necessarily react, but be with them. So we're ready to handle and deliver the solutions that are very flexible and customizable right when they're launching their products or trying to do some rapid replan or things of that nature. So we've gone from pushing out and stuffing the channel to chasing volume and being flexible and being able to get it out there quickly in the form, whether it's very plain vanilla or highly customized. So just having that flexibility to go in each direction depending on the product. And then translating that all the way down to the shop floor so that the floor can do what the client's asking us to do.
In your experience, does cost play a role, which I imagine it does, right?
Absolutely.
And how far a brand will go to create these custom experiences. And it's something that you're seeing, whether it's, the volume, the amount of volume, that a lever that might add more,
Yeah, typically
funds?
when we have a program that's thrown at us, we look at it a couple of different ways. You know, how complicated, which drives cost of the actual customized product, and then all the way through to the shipping. So, you know, we offer a lot of different methods of shipping, whether it's overnight, whether it's ground. We have our obviously our DC is located very centrally, so we can get to 80+% locations in 2 days or less on the ground. And keeping it on the ground is obviously the goal. So yeah, we do a lot of analysis on the front end to give the customers, you know, the data they need to make an informed decision regarding cost, and then optimize their cost in the process and time to their customer.
I have a question for you, Rich, because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. How are customers reacting to dynamic shipping rates from a D2C standpoint? And when I say dynamic, I mean moving with the product or the subtotal of the order, just for everyone on the call.
Yeah, you know, again, it's that front end analysis that we spend our time doing, and you know, we give them, the customers, the options, and they come back to us and dictate the method of shipping that we use. So it has a, you know, I don't get to see a lot of the analysis from the client side, but it has a lot to do with the value of the product, the need, the speed to the client, and what they're trying to capture. So if it's, you know, part and parcel with a launch, like if it's a piece of merchandise that's coming out with maybe some audio content from a record label. So all those kind of aspects come into the decision and how we do it. And we do it literally in real time on the fly.
That actually, pause there, will kind of lead into, I think, a next question on our next topic, which is product life cycle management, excuse me. But before I go there, maybe I'll see if we have any questions. Okay, this is from Kathy. Hopefully I'm telling them it's from you, Kathy. How does customization versus convenience stack up for customers with Amazon, driving expectations of convenience up higher and higher?
Well, I could certainly jump in because this is near and dear to my heart. I feel like the reason I was brought on in my last role was to solve the Amazon problem. That is, you don't want all your eggs in that basket, right? Like, so for as much velocity of what you can sell at Amazon, at the end of the day, you're just giving away, you know, cents on the dollar for every single item. And so it becomes a bigger and bigger problem. And it's going to lead into the next topic point, which is kind of funny. So I'm not going to spill everything quite yet, but I think what Amazon did right during the pandemic is they gained consumers' trust because they were still shipping with their SLAs and they were getting the product out, assuming they had it, and they were trying to find it if they didn't have it. And so inherently, they established more trust, at least specifically within the United States, that a lot of startup D2C companies probably couldn't garner, mostly because people were trying to catch up and get inventory. And Rich, I'm sure you saw this too. There was lots of out of stocks. And I think the new challenge for small companies in a D2C branded standpoint is, if you are doing business with Amazon and if you are doing business with a D2C channel, is it profitable to have free shipping on your D2C website? That's a question you have to ask yourself, and you have to run that analysis, because that's a pain point that I constantly battle with. And if you're listening to your customers, just to tie it all back together, they will tell you what they want. So I read an article the other day that said 60% of customers start their product education on Amazon. That doesn't mean they're checking out there, which is crazy to me. But here's the perfect example of a customer who didn't. So I am this customer in this instance. I was looking for a car seat for my son. And I did all of my product research on Amazon. I had friends sending me their listings. Oh, I have this one. I have this one. I added them all to the list. And then I got a Buy Buy Baby coupon and I purchased on Buy Buy Baby. That's 20% off. So there are instances where customers are not going to go with the Amazon model. You just have to listen to them.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on that one as well. So that's kind of our model, which is the opposite of Amazon. We are trying to fill a need in the market that keeps us flexible, gives product producers an option that looks and feels like their company versus Amazon. So we try and customize our solution, give people the flexibility to compete against the Amazon effect that we've all felt, right? So the first thing, a 3PL salesperson gets is, can you get it to my customer in 2 days or less? Like that's the question, right? And that's the Amazon effect. So we spend a lot of time, changing our model from that industrial size solution to that smaller, more flexible, nimble, because we want to give small, medium-sized companies, like you said, 2 million, 20 million, up to 100 million, that, has an option that can be responsive in the D2C channel. And we bring freight discounts and those kind of things to allow them to compete.
Rich, are you seeing more and more of your customers wanting to offer that free second day shipping to their customer to compete? Or are you seeing, okay.
We do. And that's where our locations, multiple sites, that's where it's important. So, you're not having to upgrade your outbound logistics to your customer.
Yeah.
For small and medium-sized customers, though, for us, it's hard because they don't want to have tremendous inventory spread over multiple sites. So there's this balancing effect on how much inventory, and that gets back to some of the analysis that needs to be done.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Good question, Kathy. Thank you, guys. Keep them coming. Okay. For purpose of time, let's move on. And I think that was a natural transition to the next topic, which was the product lifecycle management. I know one of the biggest goals is improving velocity, right, in product lifecycle. There's a need to make sure that every channel is profitable as possible. And I know one way we found here at Scalefast is offering specialty stores, right? The drop ship, the drop stores. So if you have a new release, right, getting it out in front of the customers, allowing high velocity, getting it in the placement of their hands all on the same day, but also employee stores. Again, it likely depends on the brands and how they're addressing it. But one of the questions that I will start with you again, Karaline, is how do you make clear? Do you feel like you still have to make clear the importance of the need to diversify across channels? And if you do, how do you do that? And then I'll start there.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think when you're a well-oiled machine like Macy's, they inherently understand you have to have channel mix diversification because it's a family of brands, right? It's not a single brand running the store. Then when you get into smaller companies, it becomes where are you spending your dollars to get you the most return? I say that because when I think about a channel mix, I'm not just saying in-store versus D2C, but I'm also saying organic search versus paid search versus social. And so there are revenue metrics tied to each of those vehicles and how you want to diversify. And so depending on the company and the brand, you might have a different approach. For example, we all feel the influence of TikTok weighing on us. And as someone that it's not inherently in my blood, I'm still on Instagram, I'm just, what is this thing? And that would be part of the social mix. So what are you doing with your brand if you're trying to target someone on TikTok because you want to be an influencer? Or what is your approach and how does it maybe differ from something of Macy's? So when I say channel mix, I mean two different things. I mean presence in front of the customer, and then I mean how you're getting to the customer. So there's two different vehicles there. Did that?
Yeah, no, that was
Okay.
good. I guess the next question is, are you creating different experience and using each of those channels for different purposes, right? New product versus, the products that's aging out and you want to liquidate.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that? And how do you, what levers do you pull?
Certainly. There are definitely channel opportunities for every single one of those moments of a product's life. For example, when I was at Tile, anytime we would have closeout products, we would target an affiliate customer like Rakuten or Brad's Deals to quickly, when I say quickly, I mean within 10 minutes, sell out of hundreds of items, right? So it was definitely a vehicle that we targeted in that moment. If there was a new product launch, maybe we wanted to offer customers exclusivity. And so what we would do is take more of a retention approach. So you would target your email consumers, you might target your existing social accounts and followers, and then you could do an SMS push if you have that capability, essentially to target them to say, hey, we have something new and exclusive for you. It's going to be live on the site only for you with this special link. Get them into the website, and then they likely will purchase something else, not just the item that you're offering. I call that the purple raincoat effect. And what I mean by that is you have this like shiny purple raincoat. Everyone's like, ooh, ah, and then they come in and they buy black. It happens every time. And so I think there are different channels that will be important depending on what you are doing with your product. Yes.
I like that. I'm going to use that purple raincoat effect. Rich, what about you? What trends are you seeing as it relates to, I know we touched on it a little bit before, the speed to market piece of it, but we were really, I think, talking specifically about the shipping of it, but there's so much more, as we all know, that goes into speed to market than just getting it, the 2-day shipping.
Yeah. As our customers try and connect more deeply with their customer, being able to offer solutions, having our shop floor set up effectively to take some pretty complicated customizations, very personalized, multiple way matches. So we've had to go back, look at our shop floor, make sure we can handle those kind of complexities and still be scalable and still be nimble and get the product out the door quickly. Because if you're going to highly customize a product and target a certain down to the person, you got to get it there quickly and you got to get it out of the warehouse quickly. And that's what we've done to our shop floor to be able to support those kind of initiatives.
I know we've talked about this previously, is the music industry and specifically getting new release specialized product from different record releases and whatnot. Is there a way that you're able to help your customers, and by customers actually in this case I mean your partners, monitor the inventory, to understand like what product to advertise, which ones might be not moving as quickly?
Yeah. So through our WMS, we have a host of tools that allow the customers to analyze, their inventory positions, where they are in any kind of launch, those kind of things, how the launch performance is going, is it getting there on time? So those tools and those metrics are very helpful. We give those to the customers in real time. In addition to that, we're again increasing our ability to handle complexity. So if an artist wants to do a wet signature to a certain select batch of customers, being able to do those things, ensure they get there to the customer on time. That's what we're really focused on. So every day, there isn't a day that doesn't go by where a record label doesn't call up and say, I want to do X, Y, Z. How would I do it? And then we go away and we create the solution and the ability to target a very famous artist's, key customers kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here.
Please.
Because Rich, that I think Technicolor's rich history in the entertainment business has really set a new standard for retail in addressing and treating super fans of brands the way that a band would treat their VIP fans. Talk a little bit about Technicolor's history and how you guys have built the processes for this for decades.
Sure. I mean, we started out simply doing mass quantities to retail, right? And then over time, hearing what customers want to do, it's a crowded space for bands and artists alike. So being able to support, like I said, they're what I call crazy ideas. We have transformed the shop floor. We do put new processes in place. We have things like high security protocols so we can move the product efficiently through the supply chain and then get it down to the super fan targeted level with a wet signature going out to a certain customer on a certain day, the day of launch. So developing these protocols and tools over the last 10, 20 years has been a necessity to us to survive against very large competitors. Again, it's a crowded market space for us as well. So we've had to differentiate ourselves by creating these solutions and having a shop floor that can support the process.
And then Karaline, I mean, clearly the ability to execute on this is dependent upon having the information on the customer in the first place. Customer data platforms are getting really sophisticated on the level of intent that they can show within your customer segments. What are some ways that Macy's and Tile, or in any of your experience, that you've been able to see where customers have self-selected into various stages in the product lifecycle?
Well, before I jump into that, I want to give my plug on cookie opt-outs, because I know you mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation, but it terrifies me. And there were moments last year where we had to roll out compliance updates in Europe, and I lost visibility to 95% of my traffic. Like it can happen, it's real. And so when you were talking about taking the data in-house and managing that for the customer lifecycle, it's so important. I think Ulta is actually doing it really well right now. So when we think about retailers who are starting to do it in a big way and then target their customers specifically with marketing tactics, all of their customers are opting in. Of course, they have strong loyalty. They have the base and the means to reach out to this customer group and build it. But that's kind of my initial plug on cookie tracking. But I think really the underlying theme there is you have to have a sophisticated customer data platform and be able to create these lifetime value analysis models to say who your customer is. Again, tying it all back into the segmenting of the customer. How does the lifetime value of segment A value against segment B? And then how are you putting money against that from a marketing standpoint to create this profitable 360 approach for the customer and you?
Actually, we've done studies where we break customer bases into 10 deciles and have different strategies, different investments for each one of them. The important thing to realize is it's not necessarily creating or turning everyone into your top performing decile. There's a lot of profitability by improving the middle of the pack to just 1 degree better performance, or eliminating or I guess migrating or graduating bargain shoppers into full price shoppers. There are lots of subtle changes you can make in customer behavior to improve profitability for the entire life cycle.
Exactly.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Karaline. Okay, moving on, if we're okay with that. In prep for the back half of the year, right, where I think most of the businesses are going to see, the majority of their revenue come in, what are some of the things that you guys are doing from a brand perspective, prepping for you, Rich, to prepare for that? And then twofold question, what's some advice you would give in preparation this year specifically, right? I think there are always shifts every year that we have to be aware of, especially with the main topics of, the expectations to be custom. Will brands be pushing the new product? Will they be liquidating? I know that it probably depends on the time of the year, this back half of the year, but what will you guys be doing, and what's some of the advice you can be giving?
Visibility and forecasting to the best of our customers' ability, and getting out ahead of it with their their vendors. For us, it having visibility and being, even if it's soft scheduled, but looking out, 6, 8, 12 weeks out and just starting to tentatively plan, we can slide things around pretty easily and remain flexible with some visibility. Things that just drop in on us by surprise, and we get a lot of them, we do our best to handle, but getting out ahead with campaigns and giving us visibility, even if you think it's going to come, saying we think we're going to slot this in, it's untitled or undisclosed, and we just put a placeholder in for us. For us, it's having some kind of visibility so we can plan our labor and our materials well in advance and be ready to go in the stretch here. And that's what we spend our time doing the last 4 to 6 weeks. As we come off the very slow period, we have to be out ahead of it. So we've been doing our hiring and positioning our inventories such that we can support the big pitch through Q4.
And Rich, on that note, as you're focusing on getting the product out, is there just as much of a need to turn that return product around to get it back into inventory?
Oh, yeah.
Are you seeing
a lot of that? Yeah. Yeah, because inventory is being managed much more tightly. We're not stuffing the channel like we used to. So, bringing it, cleaning it, repurposing it, or, if it's, destroy upon receipt, giving the visibility that inventory is done and over with and moving on. So, yeah, we're spending a lot of time on returns and repurposing returns very quickly.
And then for me, leading into this holiday, I would say my number one priority is not running out of stock. I think we're headed into the holiday season with big retailers saying they're not going to have enough inventory to meet consumer demand. And as someone who is operating at a much smaller level where I currently am, it is terrifying because, you miss a sale and it can add up really, really quickly when you're a little brand. So I just want to lean into that. I'm working with my supply team every single day to make sure that we are set up for success. But like Rich mentioned, we're not stuffing the market anymore. You have to forecast, and you have to forecast so close to accurate, leaning into customer behavior trends from the history and leading up to holiday to make sure that you're in a good place.
And Karaline, I don't know if this applies to you, but we're hearing from our customers, the product producers or developers, a lot of their bonuses and things of that nature are based on how much inventory is in the barn at the end of the year. So they're really graded and held accountable to having a very tight inventory at year end or quarter end. Yeah. So they're not going to sit on large sums of inventory. They want to chase the volume, but they want to do it in a very manageable and sane way.
Yeah. So when I was at Macy's, that was definitely part of our annual reviews and quarterly reviews. But at the small little startup I'm at now, we're not there yet.
There you go.
Good news for me.
Good news for me.
To what extent can e-commerce serve as a market test vehicle to learn how we can move product at a higher velocity throughout the whole cycle? Anybody?
Certainly. So, earlier Julie had mentioned, where would you market certain products that is, most relevant depending on what the product is, right? DTC is a great platform for that. And sometimes even Amazon. So for example, you might get to a point where you're like, I need exclusive product for my Amazon channel. I need exclusive product for my retail channel, and I need different exclusive product for my DTC channel. And that is what your customer is going to tell you, also your partnership with those retailers. But there are moments in time where you can say, okay, my margins are really tight on this item, but I think it's great for what my customer needs. I'm going to launch it on D2C because that's my most profitable vehicle to do that on. And so you need to make that determination with your business partners.
I mean, likewise, I think that there are analytic tools that we can bring to bear early in the process that will help merchandisers to a much greater extent than I think that they're using. For example, when you see friction points on a website, certainly you think to UX, but it could also provide insight on which products to feature or in hero images, or which silhouettes are most popular with the customer at large, and that can affect the entire way that the site takes shape over the entire lifetime of that product or that catalog.
Yeah, certainly. I know I am a customer service's worst nightmare because I'm like, your PDP is broken and here's why and where. And my husband's like, can you stop giving everyone advice?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
But when you see it, you feel like you want to give.
You wanna
I'm
share
in
it.
pain.
feedback, and
I'm
you
in
wanna share.
pain. Yeah.
I've even taken to doing, I never used to, but I've taken to doing the surveys now because I actually appreciate good service. I want to be taken care of. I want it to be painless when I fly or buy or do whatever. And I think it's important to give that feedback. I really do. I mean, it's one thing to beat somebody over the head with it. It's to give somebody a little bit of feedback on the service they're giving you.
Rich, you're a marketer's dream. Love it.
No,
Yeah.
that's actually a great idea. And Karaline, I feel like I fall into you now. I voice when I'm on the call, but I love the idea of doing surveys. Do you think that that'll be something we'll see across the board shopping this holiday season? Follow-up survey, post-checkout survey.
Yeah, I think it's going to be everywhere as it should be. You just learn more about your customers real time. The challenge is making sure it's not a hindrance and something to cause extreme exit or bounce. And so I think there are moments in time to serve it in the journey on the website. For example, my current annoyance with e-commerce websites is when you launch a website and they give you the sign up for emails. I'm like, I've never been to your website before. Why would I do that? And so pop-ups are great from a e-commerce collecting data standpoint, but is it actually causing more churn and friction for the customer? I think that's the bigger question that we're all asking ourselves now.
Karaline, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Like, do you kind of have to be careful on these surveys that like the most, unhappy people tend to be the loudest, but or only do the survey when they feel as though it didn't go perfectly, or maybe it went less than even good. So how do you separate that from like someone giving honest feedback to just a guy that's unhappy?
Yeah, I think there are two ways to approach that. One upon exit and one upon post-purchase. So post-purchase, I would hope it's a customer that is relatively happy with the experience that they had on the site. And then they'll give you real feedback. So that would be an instance where, Julie, for example, I would say your PDP was broken, or I could have checked out faster, but so that could be an instance of that. But I think exit intent is a moment where you could say, what could we have done better? Exit intent is also a moment, or abandoned cart, where you could say, do you want to sign up for our email captures, right? So I think depending on what you're trying to target and build of your brand, there are going to be different moments where you want to serve those and different pop-ups to serve different reasons.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's a great point, Karaline. Thank you. Go ahead, Dan.
I think Caroline's initial point too is understanding who your returning visitor is versus your repeat visitor, understanding what their previous purchase history has been, and then starting to segment offers and site experiences based on their history with you. It's an understanding that when you have a recurring relationship with a brand, that they're going to start to adapt to what your preferences are. They should. That's what a human would do. But I think we've become over reliant on AI to make those decisions for us. When I'm shopping for a Coach purse, my particular example I always bring up is, hey, look, I'm a coachoutlet.com customer, not a coach.com customer. So give me the place to find what is right for my intent. I'm still a valuable customer to Coach, but I'm just not going to spend the crazy prices that their premium customer is going to expend. So I think brands who understand the various segments and their value to the overall supply chain and product velocity are going to be the ones that are successful.
Yeah, and in the inverse. Oh, sorry.
No, you go. Go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, in the inverse of that, I don't know if any of you have been to a mall recently. I can't shop in a mall anymore. All I want to do is say, I want to filter. And then I want to filter from low to high, and I want to filter by brand. And in my mind, I'm like, I can't shop anymore.
Right, exactly.
Especially at the multi-brand retailers, right? I mean, that's where like I think
it's so overwhelming.
the startups are at an advantage because once someone's there, right? I imagine their attention and the amount of time or the, conversion rate may be higher.
Yeah, less product to sort through, one brand. I think it's, as a customer wrapping my mind around it, it's easier for me to shop now.
Yeah.
If it's just one-to-one.
And that's a market adaptation that we'll see. I mean, certainly, I'm sure Technicolor could provide Simon a lot of advice on fulfillment and last mile, because that's where malls have utility in the go forward. It's for the customer to be able to shop the entire catalog of products can be delivered and ready for them to drive up and get put in their trunk, and that's it. They don't even have to park. And COVID basically forced the malls to learn how to execute this. And I think that's where we're going to see some evolution. And I know that Simon Properties specifically is investing heavily into the technology to connect users via their phone to a fulfillment experience in the mall.
I was going to take it a little bit different direction and just boil it down to the vendor level, and what you guys have seen. So, we no longer just hand out a rate card that's one size fits all. So when you're engaging with Technicolor or 3PL, we ask for a lot of data about the shipping profile of the last 24 months or 12 months, so we can understand how to position our rate card and give multiple, prices for different models. And we do the customization on the rate card based on the data that you guys supply. So when customers come to us, we seem like we're a pain in the neck, but we're really trying to focus on the data, what the shipping profiles look like, how much is DTC versus going to retail or wholesale. And we really try and get under the covers and customize the rate card so it's beneficial to all parties. And that's where we see all the different channels coming into play and having that holistic view of the outbound profile.
That's interesting, but makes sense, right? Because shipping a pair of shoes is different than shipping, I don't know.
And to the consumer is
maybe
different than going to a mass retailer.
Definitely.
And trying to understand that and giving people the benefit of a very, optimized or efficient outbound profile for us. We try and bring that to the rate card as well.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And thank you guys. I know we're very close to time. I don't see any final questions, but Rich, Karaline, Dan, I appreciate your time. I know that our team is going to wrap up the webinar and share the link for anyone that maybe wasn't able to join, anyone that wants to rewatch and get some of your deep insights. But I appreciate it. And if you guys, hope to see you at future Webinar Connects. I know Dan mentioned Paris in the future. So, but thank you all, appreciate it. And best of luck this holiday season, right?
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.